Looky-loo, another wonderful Wrestle-roni for me and for you. Coming back to the show, the sexiest man on earth, ECW legend, Jason Knight. How we feeling, my man?
Doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you back. What's going on in Jason Knight's world today?
Well, as you know, we pretty much had a grand opening of our dojo, the Impact Central Pro Wrestling Dojo here in Vineland, New Jersey.
Nice.
Relaunch of Assault Championship Wrestling. We had our first TV taping last Saturday.
Okay.
And that went very well. 10 incredible matches that were taped for TV, and I mean, everybody worked their hearts out, and very happy about that. So now we're in process of editing for TV and all that.
I love it. That's pretty impressive right out the gate. 10 matches. Now, was that all trainees, or did you have to call in some friends? How'd that work?
No, we had some mostly local talent, and then we had a few surprises. People actually coming in from all the way up from New England and Long Island, New York, and other places like that. But it was pretty much I kind of scouted out the talent at a previous show.
Okay.
Namely, from the Super Crazy show
Okay.
in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of their guys expressed interest to come and work, and I'm very happy about that because they were amazing. They're all amazing, and of course, I had some of my own over here that some trainers that worked the show, and they worked very hard. So we did two TV tapings.
Okay. And it looks like you guys, you have a local TV deal. This isn't, when you're saying TV, a lot of folks say TV, they put it on YouTube. I'm guilty of it myself. But we're talking, you'll be on local TV in there in the area, right?
Yeah. We're working with Angel Orsini.
Okay.
And, what is it? Who's the network?
Yes, it's ECUSA TV.
ECUSA TV.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. She's working very hard, and she's going to be working alongside us, and of course, she's our women's champion from over 20 years ago. So,
way back when.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I just spoke to Kit Cash. She's going to be coming back.
Ooh.
A lot of good surprises.
Ooh, how exciting! And this is super cool for me. I've been on an old ECW kick. I went clear back to '93, and started over again. And man. You're all over the place. Like, you talk about somebody that stood the test of time. You was there from Eastern Championship. One I have to bring up to you. Or what memories do you have? It sounds like you wanted to say something.
No, I was actually there from '93 till 2000, and I was gone twice because I took some bookings in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Came back pretty much after it was all said and done, and so I was there from '93 till 2000, and Ultra Clash '93 was my very first appearance.
Okay.
ECW, and I shouldn't have done it because, for medical reasons, because I just undergone a back surgery, in '93.
Okay.
Something like '93, and then. Here it is, and I think it was like September or October.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that could talk me into it was Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Because I was planning on taking like a year and a half, maybe two off, and then coming back. But like, look, I've got this thing, that I'm doing over in Philly with Todd Gordon, and at that time, no internet. I heard of the TWA wrestling, of course, in
Mm-hmm.
ECW. I wasn't too familiar because, we were trading tapes or reading magazines, word of mouth. So basically, '93, Ultra Clash '93, after he talked me into it, and I was very comfortable because I was working with Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge,
Mm-hmm.
my dear friends, and I trusted him very much, so I had no problem returning.
Great.
And I was pleased that it was at the ECW arena, the 2300 arena, and it looked nothing like the way it looks today.
Change it.
But the electricity, I mean, the tension in the crowd, the positive vibes,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you could cut it with a knife.
I,
So basically, very impressed, and I expressed interest in, coming back. Still, I was recovering from my lower back. Then I came back at another match, somewhere in Pennsylvania.
mm-hmm.
But Paul had other plans with me. He told me, he explained to me that he wanted me to do this, the character that I did.
Uh-huh.
Kind of embraced it, and then it all went from there. And then 8 years later,
Talk
in EC,
and talk about embracing it. And I think they gave you the ball too, and you ran with it. You watch those old episodes. You're on every episode trying something new. One that sticks out to me that I've just had to watch over and over. You're feuding with Sandman. Sandman's outside with Peaches. You just
yeah,
roll up in a car, and he jumps on your car, and you guys just take off. It's maybe
yeah.
the coolest thing I've ever seen in wrestling. How's something like that happen?
Um, Basically, and I remember that very well. It was a summer evening in Paoli, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and that's where the first studio was. And we spent a lot of time in that studio. In fact, I would go there every week whenever we were not booked. Should I say every weekend? I would literally spend a weekend over there. So would Paul.
Okay.
We would stay there, sleep but not sleep,
Mm-hmm.
because the editing, they were doing the whole production, and I wanted to be there, and that's how I got to do a lot of promos because I was there. I would drive from New York City, to their park, and then we would eat and sleep there, and just basically cut our promos. So, being that I had that little sports car,
Okay.
do something with it. And I remember, I was parked a certain way, and I said, what about if I get into the car and then he jumps on it?
Mm-hmm.
Something derogatory about, him and Peaches. And it was, hey, Sandman, I see you have a working street corners again. And I remember the good thing is I had one of those tops that would come off so you could hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to take off too fast, but then again, I didn't want to be too slow, because he was going to fall off. And we were there, and we were there again, a couple of days at a time, and we're pretty much living over there. So there's also some drinking going on, and we'd really,
I'm sure.
we're just there, waiting our turn and kind of brainstorming what we should accomplish for next week's taping.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how pretty much for a while there, pretty much every weekend, whenever we were not booked or if I wasn't booked elsewhere. And sometimes I refused bookings just to be there and be in that studio because I wanted to be near that crew.
Heck yeah.
And of course, Paul, because I wanted to learn, everything that everything that he was willing to teach, if you're willing to learn.
For sure.
So that's how that happened. But yeah, that particular promo, and the whole thing with the car and everything. Now what people didn't realize, a little bit bent and banged up, on certain sides, so we would hide it, because it was a Porsche.
Okay, right.
Yeah, that that I finally got rid of after the tranny one, you know, and I still other trouble.
Fair enough. Now, when you mentioned the crew, I'm very interested. I love the idea of you guys being at this studio, brainstorming, partying, whatever you're doing. So, who is the crew that you're seeing there time after time back then?
Pretty much everyone that you would see in that particular setting
Mm-hmm.
would be there.
Okay.
You know, we had Paul's friend Matt, Matty in the house over there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
Him, long hair, raspy voice, annoying. He was there for a while, and you know, he was.
Whatever happened
He,
to that guy?
I have no clue. You know,
Okay.
I think he moved. You know, he pursued like other forms of show business. You know, he was a nightclub promoter. You know,
Okay.
and the attitude of a nightclub promoter. You know, living in New York City and all that. So, you know, I think he had a great character. He was just a little bit over the top. You know, and he didn't want to sell for the wrestlers because he thought, you know, I missed, you know, whatever.
Okay. I heard him a few times on commentary. He was
Yeah,
disrespecting Terry Funk. I said, this guy. I
yeah. You know,
no. Hmm?
Paul actually, at one time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you speak to him that way, meaning me, you know, I mean, I expect him to just round kick you right to the head. You know,
Yeah.
like almost like I'm bigger. I'm like, yeah, the harder you're gonna fall, my friend. But no, you know, it wasn't that kind of a dynamic. You know,
Okay.
there were a few little unnerving things because he was very annoying. You know, I don't think he understood the professional wrestling business so much because you know he would always, you know, he was a name dropper. Oh, you know, well, Bill Bixby told me this, and Bruce Willis told me that, and
Okay.
such a thing because I think he was. I'm not sure about now. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it was more like a wannabe actor.
Okay.
Uh, made it. I don't know, actor, producer, director. You know, everyone's an actor these days.
Right.
So basically, he had that attitude, like you know, well, if I rub elbows with Bruce Willis, you know, why should I respect Terry Funk? That
Mm.
type of. So yeah, you know, I mean, and of course, thankfully, Joey Styles came along. You know, obviously he was always there, but you know, he came in, and you know, I think you know they just Matt vanished because I mean, Joey is Joey, you
Right.
know, and he's the thing for the you know for the industry. Uh, and I remember, and Joey, you know, one of the crew that was there, and would literally be there for 24, 48 hours. I remember him and I used to drive back to the city
Okay.
together. And, you know, he was telling me how tired he was because, you know, he had a very important job and a lot of responsibility. And, you know, he was trying to get that in order, but he loved the industry so much. It was a touch and go. I do recall, you know, Joey probably nearly wanting to quit, you know, and of course, you know, um, Paul being who he is,
Mm.
and all the sacrifice that he had put in, um, pretty much like cry me a river,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
Stand, this is what you want. This is what you go through, and obviously good thing for Joey that he stayed. Came up great.
A good thing for all of us. He's greatest of all time, in my opinion. Just me, but
Yeah, I mean, you know, for somebody to single-handedly be able to call all the matches and do the interviews, and of course, the incorporate his personality into that. Uh, that's amazing. You know, that's a one-man show right there.
no doubt, no doubt.
Basically, the Sandman, and you know, you're asking me, and there were, of course, the originals like J.T. Smith, and I mean, the list goes on and on. Curtis Hughes was there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of promos there when it was around. I think they would keep him an extra day at the hotel to come in and, you know, cut promos. Everybody did. And then, of course, you had the locals, Cal Balomo, and a lot of other talent. Very instrumental in building ECW, whether it was from Eastern Championship Wrestling to the transition, whether they left before the transition or not, they were very, very instrumental. Like, you know, I call them the originals, the men and women that were there before I was.
And a lot of folks think that back in Eastern Championship Wrestling, they think once it became extreme, that's when it got crazy. It was crazy since day one. You guys were pushing the envelope from Jump Street, from those first TV
Yeah,
tapings.
yeah. You know, again, the only time that I remember it initially would be obviously Ultra Clash '93, and that's actually when Eddie Gilbert walked out,
Mm-hmm.
and he's, you know, was very angry, and you know, he kind of he expressed it. You know, he took a baseball bat and just started tables in a locker room, and you know, obviously, you know, I mean, look, blood is thicker than water, but I think it was time, you know, to move on and to put Paul in a position, you know, where it would be, and you know, Paul was very selfless because he minimized his appearances, and he was only there when he was needed,
Okay.
and then he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from what I hear, from what I see from the old tapes, and no disrespect, but it was the Eddie Gilbert show. So basically, I think a lot of the fans, especially the Philly fans, I
Yeah.
think they want more, someone more from their own backyard.
Right on.
You know, Paul Heyman, that's already been around, already did pretty much everything in a business and had such a great mind. So combining him and Todd Gordon and Todd's strong will and his loyalty for the industry, I think it was a perfect combination. You know, so I do remember it being pretty crazy because, you know, you had the headhunters that were doing moonsaults off the top rope, and
Mm-hmm.
you did versus Doug Gilbert, Dark Patriot, jumping off pretty much was that the Eagle's Nest
Mm-hmm.
onto the, yeah, they were, you know, they did a lot of they worked very hard even pre us, but then of course '93 comes along, and you know, it's a twist because now you have Paul Heyman, and of course you know, the big introduction of Sabu.
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you talk about revolutionizing the business. I mean, perfect segue. Tell me about Sabu hitting the scene in ECW.
It was amazing because so I'm watching what he's doing, and he's being handled by like two handlers.
Mm-hmm.
One is on one, another one, my friend Steve, who was tremendous, just a tremendous. You see the two very big guys, one
Mm-hmm.
very, very, that are pretty much on that. What is it? He was chained up and had the Hannibal Lecter mask. And then they let him go, and immediately he just hit the ring. Yeah, you know, like a bullet. That was absolutely amazing. So what he did time was well, he didn't just raise the bar. I mean, if you looked up, you know, that bar was,
Yeah.
it was, so it
Created
was
some new bar.
exactly, you know, very, very hard act to follow. And that's good because what we needed to do was create our own way of getting the interest back from the fans. So we had to do something different. And of course, you know, a lot of a lot of the guys, they started doing the same exact thing. He goes through one table, I'll go through three. Barbed wire, barbed wire, and blah blah blah, this and that.
Okay.
Which is it never hurt Sabu because he was the first one, but we were all in awe. I know I was. And what in the world is this? I mean, this is something different. This is something totally different, and he looks the part. He's in great shape. He's got the long hair, dripping with baby oil and sweat, and the baggy pants, and he's got wrestling shoes on, like a wrestler. Again, he's in great shape, all scarred up. And, they do a little research, in Japan. Sheik was his uncle, and one would say, "Oh, well, that's it. Sheik's his uncle, so he's in." No, not at all.
No.
I think I don't think that had. I'm not going to say it had nothing to do with it. I don't think it had much.
Okay.
Because you have not nephews, you have sons and daughters of legendary champions that can't even hold a candle to their
That's a very good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So absolutely nothing to do as far as why he got his push that Sabu is his uncle. I think that his uncle the Sheik was so critical of him that he had no problem saying, "Oh, that sucked. Oh son, you go. Oh, that was shit."
Okay.
I just pissed on that. He had no problem. Sabu was telling him, I met the Sheik on a couple of occasions. In fact, Sabu, years ago in the 90s, took me to Sheik's house.
Mm-hmm.
Spent an afternoon over there, just sitting around, and we had a few beers, and Sheik was there, Lansing, Michigan, and we talked, and he would rib his right with this guy. Oh, you better pray to Allah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was very critical of him. He never there was nothing easy. There was no easy way. So if he brought him to Japan, he brought him to Japan to learn, to start from the bottom. Sabu, as who he was and who he forever will be, was created through a lot of hard work and a lot of paying dues, and he did. And he had incredible work ethic. No matter whatever else aside, his work ethic was, it did not matter if we had a good house, if we had a tremendous house, his matches were always going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he raised that bar. And he didn't do that in order to show off, to pretty much try to leave anyone else in the dust. That's just how he was. His theory, his work ethics were always that no matter what, feel or hurt I am, whether my jaw is separated, broken, whether I have a gash that deep, going back, I tape it up, come back, finish the match. And if I bleed to that, fuck it, that has to be my last day, but it's in the ring. I'm gonna be remembered through that, and for him, we need to honor his legacy and literally celebrate the fact that he was around and he's never leaving.
For sure. And you talk about leaving a legacy and kind of setting a standard. I always said going to ECW house shows, they were just as crazy as pay-per-views, as what you saw on TV. I always said that if you go to a house show, you guys are going balls to the wall. So,
Watered down.
and you talk about Sabu doing that from day one, from the early days, that kind of sets a precedent. Everybody wants to, do their best. And when he's setting that side high of a bar, then you kind of see how he revolutionized things,
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that a lot of the hardworking superstars that deserve to be where they are today. Um, I think that he pretty much kickstarted um, their own attitude toward the industry, especially in the ECW. You know, even if he wasn't around and someone else came back, you know, if he was elsewhere, because he would always come back. You know, it was like, you know, when if Sabu was here, this would be, you know, the X, Y, and Z, and you know, that type of a thing. You know, you always wanted to, almost like even if you didn't know him, you know, it was always in the back of your mind that, you know, here's a guy that I have to follow his footsteps, and they're very, very large shoes to fill. And I think, yeah, you know, because I mean, everybody worked so hard. You know, you had your Sandmans and Dreamers and the Pitbulls and the Eliminators, the Dudleys, um, Credibles, the Storms, everyone that was in our company, whether they were great technical wrestlers or just great New Jack, risk takers, people with friggin' balls of stone that would do anything. Speaking of Balls Mahoney, Axel Rotten, we had such an incredible crew. We really and truly did. But the guy that first started that whole that kind of put it out there and said, look, you know, this is the path to follow, whether you like it or not. You can go this way or that way. But if you want to make it as exciting as you can, just, you know, follow me.
Gotcha.
I truly believe it was him, you know, even though, yes, you mentioned before, there were a lot of there were crazy matches, just different situations and all that. But I believe that, you know, in '93, Ultra Clash, and then when he started coming back on a regular basis, and Heyman was his manager, handler, and all that, I think that's where everything went straight up.
I mean,
so
you can see it happening. And you lived it, so I'm sure you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I saw the whole thing, you know, and I looked at it with open eyes and an open mind. I knew what needed to be done. And I knew, you know your order, and you know what you need to do. You know that if you're not like that guy, and if you don't do that particular style, you need to do something, create something, tweak something of your own that will be just as interesting, or at least watchable. So.
Okay, so take me to the night where Sabu obviously takes the Japan booking. Heyman fires him publicly. Here's a guy that Heyman had on a pedestal. You thought could do no wrong. Everybody loved. What's going through your mind? What's going through the boys' mind when this is your guy? You know.
Booking are you talking about?
Whenever Heyman had fired him before he came back in '95 at the November to Remember.
I guess I don't know, because I'm not sure, because, you know, that was like a long time ago. I mean,
Right on.
I always think it was like given for Sabu to go back to Japan.
Right.
You know, could have been like, well, you know, we'll work around you, because I I know that on an occasion Paul fired me for going to Japan.
Oh, okay.
And of course, you know, he took me back,
Right.
because, you know, angle. But the thing was, it was really about the money, and it was about paying the overdue bills. And yeah, I had this great opportunity for that one particular show with the Eliminators and Pitbulls and all that, at the Lost Battalion in Queens, or I had a week or two in Japan that was going to solve all my financial problems for the next weeks to come
Okay.
after I came. if not months. You know, so you know, I mean, I took the ladder,
Yeah.
and I hated the fact that said, "Oh, don't come back," and all that. So that's pretty much what I believe happened in that case. Paul had great plans for Sabu, as he did for myself and the crew that I was working with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly this one piece of puzzle says, "Look, I can't fit in, not on that particular day. You know, I need to be elsewhere." Why? Well, because we have bills to pay.
Exactly. You can't fault a guy for going and making, like you said, that much more money, you know?
I get it because okay, you want to talk about Paul Heyman
Mm-hmm.
and his upbringing in the business. Uh, Paul, and it's a fact, was pretty much told, "You want to do this for a living? You're on your own, son.
Okay.
You want to go to Memphis and uh, playing that sandbox over there? Make your way." It's not like somebody was sending him money and he was living large. No, he paid dues as much as anyone else did.
Okay.
So because he was a survivor, he'd make those sandwiches and do a 10-hour trip and with a 12 pack of beer and then sleep in a car or sleep in some fleabag motel. He did that for years before before he got the big opportunities. And I think that that was his uh, attitude towards that. Look, if I can do it, you can do it. But then again, at the time, he didn't have family, kids, and all that. So
Makes a difference.
maybe, but still, you know, I mean, I do understand his point of view because everyone thinks, here's this rich kid out of Scarsdale, New York,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone him on a silver platter. And here, son, you do whatever you want to do. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to. You decide whatever you want to do. And you have unlimited funds. And, we're just going to kiss your ass all the way through because you're our son. You can do whatever you want. No, it wasn't like that. And I think that's why Paul was still is very tough. Uh, he, yeah, what they say, takes no quarter, gives no quarter. I mean, he doesn't back down, and that's why he has such strong belief in work ethics. I mean, the man that pretty much never sleeps, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he works hard these days. Probably I don't know, even harder than he did back then, which I don't do that.
Okay.
That's Paul. So that more than likely that was the case because I got out of my own experience. What do you mean you can? You tough it out, I'm late with bills.
Right.
Power repossessed. I don't want to be kicked out of the apartment. I don't want. I want to wear clothes, and I don't want. I want to. I don't want holes in my shoes. That type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, pack your shoes up and eat out of a garbage can, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Because Paul, uh, when he found when he saw that vision, that tunnel vision,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees light all the way in the back, and it's so tiny you can barely, but he knows he's going to get there no matter what he needs to do. So I can understand him firing certain people, certain things, whether we agree as far as the circumstances or not. That's nor here nor there.
Oh yeah.
That's. But Sabu came back larger than ever. Again, with the whole ECW crowd. My goodness, he's back from Japan. Remember they did that with Tommy Dreamer, in fact,
Mm-hmm.
when they were trying to strengthen Tommy Dreamer. He teamed up with the Funks, come to Japan, get experiences over there. Then he came back, more serious Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
Tougher wrestler, and well, look at him now, right? I mean, he's legendary.
Yeah. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Well, you talk about learning from Paul Heyman, and you see him as a promoter. Now you're running a school. Now you're running a promotion. And times have changed. I've seen what trainees, I see both sides. I see tradition where it should be. I see where we need to make changes. But who am I? I'm a podcast guy that, I haven't been in the business a cup of coffee compared to you. So, how do you handle this new crop? Are you seeing differences in how people are? And just tell me about the changes from then till now with training folks.
It's tough, and sometimes, sometimes I want to break down and cry. Sometimes I want to break shit and throw it around. Sometimes I'm just like dumbfounded. However, uh, you got to work with it. I mean, things change, and if you can help these young people and so that they can understand and incorporate and respect the way that we were raised in a business. And it's funny you should say that, because not long ago I was sitting next to Johnny Rods, and we were talking about this, and I said, here I am so many years later, um, well over 4 decades later, right? And I'm seeing all these changes, and for me it's so frustrating. I said, now I can understand how you felt when guys like me were breaking in, and you were already seeing changes way back then. Now compared to now,
Mm-hmm.
it's on not another planet. It's like a separate universe.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he said, even back then when we were breaking in, he was shaking his head, and he was very instrumental as far as the way that he was teaching, and he was very 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 hard as far as not giving an inch. This is what you need to do, because I believe that uh, I think that he felt that we were like really the last generation.
It was so good too. Talk about cooking. He'll be back. It's a lights out moment. You had a lights out moment, Jason.
Yeah, I think I think that he realized that we were the last generation that could be trained the way that old school, that original, and we're talking, so if we're talking Johnny Rods, he was probably trained by the likes of Luthez and the predecessors.
Yeah.
So basically, I uh, I adopted that style and that form of training and that form of respect and behavior. And
Good.
it's so much different. I mean, it's been getting progressively different. It's it's no longer the professional wrestling that I grew to love. However, you'd be surprised how many young people get it, and how many young people, even though they have their little wild weed in them,
Right.
uh, they still want to learn, and they still want to incorporate basically the old school style, meaning psychology, things making sense, uh, proper locker room etiquette, uh, protecting your opponent, uh, respecting the environment, and things like that.
Okay. Do you think?
Versus
Go ahead.
no, versus the I can't say my majority, but sometimes it's almost like a majority of young people that absolutely just. I mean, you can walk in and put your chair down with your stuff. They'll just knock your shit over and have to take a chair because who's that? Like that
Uh
type of
oh.
thing. That that's where it becomes.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah, it's a bit much to say the least. But do you think, as far as you say, there's these kids that seem to know the etiquette of the locker room and everything, do you think that's partially due to the business partially being exposed, the behind the curtain stuff? Because I know when I got in the business, I had read Bret Hart's book, I had watched Al Snow shoot interviews, and I knew you shake this guy's hand, you do this and do that. Just I'd picked up these things, as opposed to when you got in, everything's a secret. You don't know how to act.
Yeah, I mean, back then, uh, pretty much the way that you were schooled was, by punishment.
Okay.
You do something, they're going to punish you one way or the other. Lucky for me, I always uh, had that gentleman-like behavior.
Okay.
He's still, from the time when I was a kid. I grew up that way.
Hmm.
And especially, now I'm entering a world of these men that can crush you like a grape if
Right.
they want. And you got to work with them. You got to train with them. And pretty much you're at their disposal.
Yeah.
so, I mean, you have to be a total idiot to go in there with an attitude that can get your face busted or your neck broken or embarrassed.
I'm sure you've seen a few along the way.
Yeah, I've seen a few along the way. Yeah,
Yeah. You have any examples without naming names?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even remember. Like, for instance, there's a guy back in the '90s that came to a Hamburg TV taping. And he demanded to be on TV, and he had his wife, who was a valet, and he was somewhere Virginia, West Virginia, whatever.
Uh-oh.
Some tall, that kind of looked all goofy, and told me, "Dan the Man Hess."
Okay.
Okay, there you go. His wife or his girlfriend, that was his valet, and she was actually dressed like a little Bo Peep.
Huh.
And he demanded. He said, "I'm here. I've been working for like several years. I mean, you guys need me over here." And kept bugging and bugging. And Paul said, "Sure. We're going to put you with another guy that we liked, and you're going to go up against the pit bulls."
Oh, okay.
Managing at the time. So the other guy, his partner, does a few things with the pit bulls, and the power thinks, let me tag this guy in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once in, he was off to school, off to the race, and no turning back. So, and of course, he tried to sandbag Gary to get up on Anthony's shoulders, but to no avail, because Gary's like, here,
Right.
set his hand, super bomb off the top rope, and he's lying there. He says, "I think am I still alive?" And, yeah, you're alive. He crawls out of the ring, and he gets back into the locker room and crawling.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I think I'm done. My back is broke. Girls, oh my goodness, oh damn, oh damn. So Heyman goes, "You okay, brother?" He goes, "No, Paul, I think my back is broken." He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "Yeah, I've seen this happen before." He goes, unless you force yourself to get up and walk it off, you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life." The Jason Voorhees. The old Dracula.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen, stuff like that. And, of course, you remember the mass transit incident,
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much, I mean, he only has his parents to blame for that, because it's professional wrestling. It's very tough when you're booking and someone didn't show up, says, "Okay, well, there's a guy over here. Okay, what's your name?" "Yeah." "How old are you?" Oh, I'm 18. Okay, good. You're going up against so-and-so.
Yep.
You know, gang. Oh, sure. You know, please cut me. I want to bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you see, I mean, you know, I see it constantly, and I go to these independent shows, and again, you know, you'd be surprised in how many fine young people, but it's almost like you always have that rotten egg, you know. It's always like, you know, shit and clean laundry, you know, and you
Exactly.
always walks by, and I just try not to. They're ignorant, and you know, sooner or later, you know, I'm sure that sooner or later, you know, they run into someone that.
It, it, it works itself out. And I've been the first to say that kind of stuff starts at home. It's not up to a wrestling trainer to teach you how to respect somebody, you know?
I mean, you know, I see it all the time. You know, I mean, absolutely. The way you were raised at home, you know, young people. You know, we have a set of rules at our dojo. You know, our place is very, very clean. You know, it's like our home.
Okay.
For everybody to treat it that way. You know, and you know, at times, you know, you'll have people walking in, you know, leaving a dirty bathroom, taking whatever they want. You got to put a stop to it, and if it continues, you know, they're not welcome back. Period. You know, because and I will not put my stamp on that particular person. You know, in fact, if they try to branch out, I will publicly announce that I'm not putting my stamp on that particular person. So let the buyer beware.
And I've seen you do it. There was somebody out running around recently saying that you trained him, and you made sure to say, "Nah, I don't know what this guy's talking about."
Oh, I mean, you know, he had one. He hired me
Okay.
for a seminar,
Mm-hmm.
and he was part of that seminar. And out of everybody in that seminar, including one girl that was in the ring for the very first time, he did the worst.
Really?
He couldn't, and you know, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. I even had to. So here's a guy that's paying me. All right. Essentially, he's the booker. He's the promoter.
Right.
Yet he wants to be in it. So I had to tell the booker, the promoter, shut the fuck up.
Wow.
You know, are you finished? Are you finished? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, go fucking smoke another one. You
Right.
know, and it's like, you know, first you come in high as a kite. You're in here. You were talking shit when I'm trying to teach a seminar, and I take it very seriously. Those 2, 3, 4 hours. I mean, you know, we're going to work. We're not going to talk about uh, how much coke we did, or how many joints we smoked, or you know, how many girls we laid on. I mean, that's not what a seminar is.
Right.
And a lot of them seem to expect that, you know, they want road stories. They want uh, so how many fights, you know, how many times did you juice? Did you shoot on someone? No, motherfucker. It's about training. It's about learning how to wrestle. It's about learning how to wrestle, how to protect yourself, your opponents, learning how to walk, how to how to make sense in the ring, how to look good, how to interact with the crowd, how to respect the facility, how to respect the industry. That's what it's about, you know. So yeah, you know, I mean, people like that come in. I was trained by Jason Knight. Please don't say that. And I've asked him nicely. I said, please don't say that. You know why? Because you suck. You're horrible. You are a cosplayer.
Right
You're
on.
not a wrestler. And that's exactly where I separate it. A professional wrestler is a trained professional. Professional wrestler is a trained professional who works in the industry and either makes a living out of professional wrestling or makes a good, decent supplemental income
Okay.
wrestling. There's nothing wrong with having a job.
Right.
Nothing, you know, having a career, having a job. And I know quite a few names out there. You know, they work their 9 to 5. They either own their businesses or they work for a firm or whatever they do. They wrestle on weekends, but they're good enough they're respected enough that they get paid. They make a hell of a good supplemental income.
Right on. Yep.
And you're a professional wrestler. When you're bouncing around for, what they say, a hot dog and a handshake, not televised anywhere, but, just on YouTube in somebody's backyard, I'm sorry, that's not professional wrestling.
Okay.
That's a hobby, that's having fun, and that's cosplaying. A bunch of drunken, pot-induced goofballs willing to do anything and everything just to show it on their little channel. And it's okay if that's what you want to do. But please don't call yourself a professional wrestler.
Okay.
He's a trained professional.
I like that. Because now more than ever, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Or at least a good supplemental income.
Yeah. And I'm glad you put it that way, because now more than ever, the waters have been muddied. You got your Grim Toy shows. I mean, obviously successful, millions of subscribers, but I don't know if that guy's been to wrestling school. I mean, it's hard to tell unless you watch the match and you know what to look for. And I mean, you can watch a match and tell if they're trained professionals or not. But everybody, like you say, everybody's got a YouTube channel now.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like, if you're going to call yourself a professional driver,
okay,
whether a driver or a truck driver, you can't say, hey, I like this, so I'm going to take this 18-wheeler on the road because I like to go, burp, burp,
Right on.
And I carry the old and say, hey there, 10-4 little bird, So you're going to put an 18-wheeler, you're going to put some asshole behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler because that's what he likes.
Yeah.
I'll be a truck driver, but what I really am is I have no job.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Whatever. So that's basically, I mean, so now you go another step further and you take an asshole and you put some human bodies and human lives into their hands.
That's what I was going. Yeah.
Along with a whole lot of weapons, that have never been cleaned, or barbed wire and thumbtacks that have been recycled, and a whole lot of glass and all that. And here, let's take a really good hit of that. Great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wow. Why do we see that very top over there? That very top branch, why don't we jump off of that? It'll be okay.
Right.
It's all grass down. I mean, it's we're talking like we're talking human lives. Yeah. And I never, as pissed off as I get at seeing stuff like that, I don't want to see anyone severely hurt or killed. And a lot of people say, "Fucking, let him die. Let I hope they break their backs and everything." No, I mean, I've seen a lot of shit in and out of professional wrestling.
Okay.
But as far as seeing something like that, it's like an accident waiting to happen. I get squeamish, Okay. It's like I want to say, but no, what the fuck do you know? I'll just go and I'll.
You weirdos are making the ECW guys squeamish. What is wrong with y'all?
Yeah, I mean, well, at least we were all trained professionals, and we went somewhere, and we were getting paid, and we were on real pay-per-views.
There you go. Good point. Yeah.
By companies, not mommy and daddy, and here, let me second mortgage my let me pawn my car title, so I can run a show, and again, I know I'm going to catch a lot of heat over them. Fuck it, why not? Because it's true. No, I'm telling the truth. But the thing is that if that's what you're into, it's your money, it's your business. It just when I see these poor suckers being drug into it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of false promises. Yeah, I mean, we got this YouTube channel, man. And I'm telling you, Vince is going to see you, and Have about 100,000 young fools that believe that they're going to be the next big thing without working out at the gym,
Yeah.
without professional wrestling gear, without paying their dues, without a car, and bicycling around, and, uh, and without proper training,
Yeah.
or no training at all. I'm trained by, devastating Derek Dickolo.
Davis.
Derek Dickolo. He's devastating. Derek. You don't know him? No. Oh, where the fuck have you been, man?
Right. Well, then when does it come to the promoters to do their research? I mean, I know a lot are running these outlaw mud shows and don't give a shit, but somebody's giving these goose work. You know what I mean?
And here it is. Here at ACW, right? We have, myself, and I've been out of the loop, so I'm actually dumb when it comes to like the modern day. So I have to be very careful not to say, that guy, whatever, No, I have to be objective. You have to give it a chance. An old prick constantly, I have another old prick, a legend that is Tommy Cairo.
Nice.
And he's very, very tuned with what's going on. He tells me things that I'm like, he goes, Jason, you don't know that? I don't. I don't. It's like I haven't watched it. I don't. I haven't followed it. And he does his homework, and he's got time, and he's got notes.
Nice.
And he'll watch the shows, and he'll call bullshit. Has no problem,
Mm-hmm.
And or not, he's willing to, take that prosthetic leg and shove it up someone's ass sideways without any lube, He is our, he's our eyes, and again, he's very in tune with what's going on. So as far as the promoters, no, they want cheap help, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not. Excuse me, they're not promoters. They're cosplayers.
And be careful out there in Jersey. I hear they're cop calling up that way.
They're cop calling, of course. Yeah, they love the cop call.
That's what I'm hearing.
that's
CCW
like
got shut down.
Yeah, go figure. But you see,
Go figure. Fair enough.
yeah. My wife made sure that everything is legal.
Good.
I mean, everything. So basically, what they can do is, I can open a door, turn around, and how shall I politely say it? Pull my pants down. They can spray my cheek, kiss me right in the middle.
Right in the...
I mean,
Good.
Honestly. Oh, of course.
We are completely stoned.
Yeah, I mean,
everything.
Everything we do here is 100% legitimate.
And we also rent out to other promotions.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. So, and that's smart because
as long as these promotions are legitimate,
right,
and as long as they don't bring anyone that is untrained,
right,
it's cool with us. And we're not prudish or anything like that. You say, oh wow, you're not going to allow hardcore wrestling and all that. Yeah, but nothing stupid.
Right on.
Nothing stupid, dangerous. Nothing that will potentially cut someone's jugular and they're going to bleed out in the middle of my ring. Now, is that good for business? For a few $1,000s? I don't think so.
Gotcha. No fluorescent light tubes then, huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I mean,
fair enough.
I've actually done a match like that one time.
Okay.
In the old days, my old company in Connecticut, because I made a mistake of saying, fans, bring your own weapons, Oh shit, light tubes, So it was really nothing, but it's very annoying. And, little pieces of glass and all this. I don't know. I mean, it seems that The most protected are the wrestlers because they get hit directly,
Right
you
on.
know.
And then
But
it
then
flies out
crowd,
into the crowd. Yep.
all these all these people, you know, holding a holding a cup of beer, you know. Cheers to that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, certain things I will not, and you know, and I will not allow any recycled bullshit, you know, recycled thumbtacks, or recycled barbed wire, recycled half broken tape,
Who's
somebody's
doing
blood and
that?
absolutely not. And you know, and we do require a special canvas to be used over hours.
Good.
You know, and that is hasta la vista, baby, goodbye. You
Okay.
bring it, set it, you take that fucker out, and do whatever you want with it.
Good.
You know.
Heck yeah. Well, you've got to figure it out. Heck yeah. I got to say, even the no ring death matches here in West Virginia, they're spraying everything down with Lysol. So when you say like reuse and stuff, that's there's some crazy shit going on out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Our place, it's clean. I mean, I have no problem. Sometimes, you know, my wife and I, you know, we pull a late night or whatever. We facilitated it so we can look beautiful giant screen TV. You know, we can stay here. We can stay here for days at a time.
Good.
You know, showers, everything. Well, you know, with Planet Fitness right down the road. You know, so
Ooh, okay.
everything that I have at home, everything that we have at home, as far as hygiene and everything that we need, food, clothes, everything is replicated here.
Nice.
In case we do have to pull, you know, late nighter or an all nighter, we have a clean, safe place to stay, you know, and we're both armed, so you know, if anyone wants to out, you know, through the doors after hours.
Even before you said that, I was going to say, it sounds like you've been through the trenches, and then you say, when I'm armed, so it sounds like you've been through the trenches, huh? Well, I'm glad you're doing well, Jason. I've kept you well over an hour, so at the same time, make sure the folks know where to find you if they want to sign up for the dojo, find you on social media, if you have any merchandise, upcoming shows, whatever you want to put out there, let them know.
We do, you know, upcoming shows. Let's see, upcoming show. Our
Upcoming shows. The next one is a television taping. It is Memorial Day in Vineland, New Jersey. The dojo is at 319 West Lambda, Unit 3, Vineland, New Jersey. Plenty of parking in the rear, so I always tell people right to the back. We have like 61 or 70 some parking spaces.
Yeah.
So
68, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Impact Central Pro, actually it's Impact Central Pro Wrestling Dojo.com or AssaultChampionshipWrestling.com. It all goes to the same website. Has all of our upcoming shows. We are in negotiation to do a beach show in Wildwood Crest, and hopefully as soon as I have information on that, I will post it, as well as we will be back at the Pfeiffer, and I don't have the exact date yet. That will be announced later on this week, and that will be at the Pfeiffer Community Center in Williamstown again, and that will also be a pay-per-view. So go on sale for that very, very shortly. That will be all Halloween themed. And then the other thing that we're doing at the dojo, besides other promotions running, I do have a full list all the way up until July so far, and August will be added soon, you know, along with the rest of the year. But we are doing our first ever right around Halloween. It'll actually be Halloween night and November 1st. The dojo is turning into a complete haunted house.
Ooh.
So, yeah, so it's going to be a big event, and I have a fellow wrestler that is co-partnering with me, so we will be taking care of that, and you know, and the proceeds to that, actually, some of that is going to be going to charity.
Heck yeah! Look at you guys go. You're cooking.
Yeah, we're trying to, and Direct Hit TV will be a TV show. It will be on the Akuska Network, which is Angel or Steve Network. You can download that app. Jason's fitness show will also be on that network, and I believe they have a podcast.
Yes, we do.
And it will be both Jeannie and Jason. That will all be on her network. It is a growing network, and she is working her rear end off on it. every free moment she gets, you know, and then some. But one hell of a network. And let me see what else. So Direct Hit, and that is also
Nice.
that's also kind of showcase the new talent coming up. We had 10 matches that we recorded last Saturday, all solid matches, and we also crowned, so to speak, the first ACW television champion.
Ooh.
So that match will air very shortly, so it can be put out there. But very, very good guy. I mean, these kids just really brought it this past weekend, and we're expecting no less on May 26th. But our live studio audience is you can get tickets for that. We have limited seating, but you can get tickets for that, and as long as you're willing to be on TV as well.
Get in on it. Get in on it. Heck yeah, I love it. Well, Jason, I appreciate you both. I really do. I like what you're doing. I like anytime some of the original minds from ECW, if that can go back into independent wrestling and back into the scene, I'm 110% for it. Sounds like you have some great minds behind you. Before I let you go, if there's any final words you have for the folks out there, you just have at it, sir.
Thank you for everything. Thank you, and it's great to still be here. Kind of adapting to this nouveau style, doing whatever we can, but just remember, you know, respect the originals, respect from where it first started. Do your homework. Understand that it's a very unique industry and it's really not for everyone, you know, and always know the difference between professionals and cosplayers.
There you go. All right. Heck yeah. I appreciate the heck out of you, Jason Knight. If you don't mind, I'll ask you to hang on the line with me. And to the viewers, thank you, sir. This is why we do it, man. Check out what's going on out in Vineland, New Jersey. We're going to be back with another surprise crazy name that's just going to blow your wig off. In the meantime, go out there, treat each other with kindness and respect, but don't take no shit from no one. Go live your dreams. Stay tuned to the Roni. Plenty more crazy stuff coming up. I appreciate you hanging in there with us. I love you. We're out of here.